Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It is nice to see everyone again. My name is Tupo Latukefu Drake, and I am your host for today's Koviki Talk. Koviki Talk is a multi episode series that talks about all things COVID, but from a PI perspective. So, we have influential guests from all walks of life to speak to our community. Koviki Talk is by Pacific Islanders for Pacific Islanders. And so we have talked about how to vote safely in a pandemic, how to get tested, and now it's all about the vaccine. All month in July, Koviki Talk has focused on the young adults, what we call the Wayfinders, and giving them the platform to share their voices and opinions from. And so, joining us again today are the amazing people. Our first guest is Melanie Malaysia. Melanie is both a first generation college student completing a language degree at the University of California, Berkeley, and the volunteer recruitment coordinator at Glide SF, working to support weekly COVID 19 vaccination clinics in the Tenderloin of San Francisco. Melania's geographies include Tutuila in the east and Apia in the west of the island of Samoa, as well as the city of San Diego. And Melanie served as the first seminar chair in the pilot cohort of the Pacific Islander Initiative at UC Berkeley and currently serves within the Pacific Islanders at Cal, or the known as PAC, as their Executive Advisory Director. Having also partnered with Te Pokai Ao, a group of international Maori youth who work to maintain the indigenous culture of the Maori people of Aotearoa, Meilani hopes to create international bridges for Pacifica students in partnership with Pacific Islanders at Cal and the Pacific Islander Initiative. So everyone, welcome Meilani. And our next guest, our next guest is Oren Patu. Oren is currently a student at the University of California, Berkeley. He is Samoan, Tongan, Fijian, Black, and White. Oren is a OLB on the Cal Berkeley football team. He is also on the board for PAC, Pacific Islanders at Cal, which is a club that he and a couple of other Pacific Islander students have started at Cal. Oren is here to connect and build great relationships with his PI community in California. And so, follow your boy on Instagram at Oren Patu.
Hey,
What's up, y'all? How are you? With that out of the way, how are you guys doing?
good, doing good.
I was surprised
Yeah,
I was surprised they have us back.
yeah.
Glad,
Me
glad to
too.
be back. Good to be back.
Right.
For sure.
No, as always, I want to go ahead and start with a check-in question, if that's okay with y'all.
hmm
Yeah.
So the question is, what do you do to take care of yourself? What do you do to take care of yourself? And so this can look like a number of things, but when you first think of this question, what is the thing that comes to mind? What is the thing that comes to mind?
You want to go first, Melanie?
I guess so, Oren. All right. Um, um, I think I think I'll kick it off with a big one because I know that this can be a touchy thing in our communities. I do. I have a regular therapist, and I take mental health very seriously. It wasn't something that I grew up with in the household. It wasn't something that we necessarily put words to. Nor do I think there are words in my native language that you use to describe this accurately, which would make describing it accurately. Excuse me. I'm gonna have to wave down the lights. It's like an auto system.
No, it's good.
Yeah. No, I do go to therapy and I do talk about daily experience and daily thoughts with someone on a weekly basis because I think it's important to have that space, understand yourself better, so you have capacity to hold everything else on top of that you need to. So that is something I do to take care of myself. What say you, Oren?
The first thing that came to my head was hot wings. Is because when I
Of course. Of course.
Take care of myself. The first that was just the first thing that popped up because hot wings are my favorite food. So like eating good food, I feel like is a good way of mentally taking care of yourself because you feel good, eating some good food, you feel happy. Got that dopamine release in your head, and it's good. So that's one. And I guess like working out also is to me taking care of myself. I work out like almost every day, and that's something that it heals me mentally and physically too. So those are a couple things that I do to take care of myself. So yeah.
That's what's up. I
Mhm.
wish that's what I did to take care of myself. No, but for me, when I think of like taking care of myself, I think of finding ways to make me slow down since I'm like always on the move, always like busy, always doing things. The first thing that I thought of was like watching anime. I know it's like hella nerdy, but like, there's nothing that sounds better to me than just chilling at home watching anime for like 3, 4 hours straight.
What animes you be watching?
The animes I've been watching, I mean, everyone already knows my favorite is One Piece. I've been watching that since I was a
Yeah.
kid. Um, but I like what I watch all the classics like Naruto, um, Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like that's become a classic now. But anyway,
I don't know
yeah.
how y'all
And
watch that stuff. I
I
don't
mean,
know
I
how
watch
okay,
y'all
anime.
do
hold on,
it.
hold on, hold on, hold on,
I
hold
can't.
on. Okay,
I
see,
can't.
but the thing about anime though is that like the storylines and the characters and the character development, all of those things are hella relatable, in a way that like because you mentioned Melanie, yes, the development. You
Yeah.
mentioned Melanie that like we don't talk about mental health and that there are just some things in Pacific and their families where there are things we can't go to our parents for, we can't share certain experiences. And I feel like a lot of the times we don't have the social tools that we need to communicate or to look for the help that we need. And so for me growing up, I definitely experienced those. So watching anime helped me in a way, where I could find myself in these like made up stories, but
Mhm.
of course, inspired by real life. That's what really got me hooked. Plus, the action is always great.
I
Never
feel
finished.
that.
I watch. I always watch like a couple of seasons and I just don't finish it. One Piece was one of them. Naruto was one of them. I watched some other
I
crazy ones
mean,
that I don't even want to get into right now. But yeah, definitely there.
nah, no, I feel that. No, thank you guys for sharing though. I think taking care of ourselves is always comes second, right? It always comes second in our daily lives. When we're so busy going to work, going to school, taking care of family and all of that. So I think I always like to ask this question so that we're reminded like, oh shoot, this is what I like to do to take care of myself. Am I actually doing it? So yeah, no. So we were brought back again today to continue this conversation about COVID-19 and the pandemic and how we've been enduring, right? And so we got a few more questions in. Um, and so I guess I'll kick it off with how or are there things that you discovered or learned during COVID that you wouldn't have learned or discovered otherwise? So like what are some positive takeaways from this whole experience as a whole?
Yeah. Something I learned during the whole pandemic was like like being honest. It was a time that I needed to be honest. Like I was in going into my second year of college and just still trying to learn the ropes of how school worked and how sports worked and how to balance everything out. And it was a lot like on me mentally, and it was just I was stressed out. And then the pandemic happened, and then we went home. We were on a break for like a year, and it was something that I felt like I actually needed. But during that time of being in the house and just chilling with my family, like it helped me to realize how valuable like spending time with your family or with your loved ones are, and like how valuable that time is, and how like it was just a blessing to wake up, with my family in my house, almost for like a year, and it also helped me to go outside of like my comfort zone and like learn different things. Like I learned how to barbecue chicken. Like I was learning about stocks and stuff. So like it just forced me to basically learn something that I didn't know before, since we were stuck in the house all day, and you got the
Right.
internet as your tool, so you can literally look up whatever and like watch a new show, watch a new anime, or try a new wing flavor or something. So like throughout the whole pandemic, it kind of helped me just expand my like knowledge in other places where I wouldn't usually, get into, as well as helping me realize like the time that is spent with family and how important it is. So yeah.
I feel that. That's true.
Hmm.
What about you, Melanie?
Yeah, sorry, it's a bit choppy for me, y'all. Let me see. Oh, okay, I think it's getting better. Cool. Um, yeah, so it's the advantages or detriments, like what you learned about yourself in COVID. That was a question.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think just having to be isolated in one environment for such a long time forced a lot of self-reflection that doesn't necessarily come easy for me.
Yeah.
Um, it can be very uncomfortable very often to just sit in my own thoughts. And when you have no choice, when everything else is closed, when you know you're supposed to be inside, you really do just have time. And I feel like before COVID, that's one thing that I never had was time.
Hmm.
There was always something I was doing. There was always some commitment that I had made that I just couldn't get out of, and I never had time. So I think time was both a gift and a detriment in that way. Yes, I had time to finally pursue some of the things I wanted to pursue, but also with that time came thoughts that just wouldn't stop flooding. Like you also have time just to sit in your own head and really think about things. And yes, it helped in a sense because after thinking through these things, there was a lot of clarity as to where I wanted to go, to what I wanted to do, to who in my life I wanted to pursue, to who in my life I was giving energy that was misplaced, and vice versa, right? So I think COVID helped me learn a lot about myself and
Hmm.
the ways in which I spend my time and the ways in which I value my time. Um, so I think time was both the gift and the detriment of COVID.
Yeah, that's hella true. I think like my answer is related to yours, where like I also was forced to slow down during the pandemic. Um, but the biggest thing that I learned about myself that is that I did have the power to say no, right? To say no
Yes,
to events, to assignments, to like just things that weren't serving me in the way that I believed it was, when we were in person. Um, because one, like sometimes I didn't sometimes I didn't have a choice like to say then to say no because of the pandemic. But then like once I got into the habit of it, I started to feel more comfortable with turning things down, realizing that there are other things that should take precedence in my life other than like I mean, because we're all involved in like community work, right? Like we do community work in regards to higher education.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the times we feel obligated to constantly like come through and like pull through all the time because no one's going to be there for our community but us, right?
right,
But what I've learned is that like because it's our community, there will always be help. There will always be like others like us who can do the same things for our communities. And I think that realization sucked. That realization sucked because like the desire, right? The desire that we all have to put in that work and to put in that effort for the people that we love and the future generations to come.
Yeah.
But it was a realization nonetheless. It was positive, like you said, Milani was both positive and like kind of sad.
Right.
Yeah. And
Right.
one point that mentioned when it came to communities and the people you love. Another thing that important thing that I learned about the pandemic is that people need people. Like it was like just learning about everything and my respects and condolences to like suicide people who committed suicide and stuff like that. There was the suicide rate. I don't know if y'all seen it. It spiked up crazy during the pandemic, and I know people personally who took their lives, and it's crazy to see like how big of an effect that like being around your people and having those loved ones around you, like how it can affect somebody and their mindset. Because even though we all went home, and for some of us it was like an exciting thing, like some people's home lives are worse than going to school. So like going to school and being in a whole different area is actually a better situation than being home, and it was just kind of sad to like see the outcomes of some of that with people. But that was just another thing I learned. I just wanted to mention of like how important it is for like a community to come together and there to be like people who you love and are in your circle throughout that time. So yeah.
That's hella true. That I'm glad you brought that up
Mhm.
because that was something that I peeped, like, in my classes, where like students were sharing that school was kind of their solace, right? Like that was their place to get away from the BS that they experience at home or at work or whatever. Now that school wasn't accessible, like it just made the pandemic that much more worse for them, other than them being afraid of getting sick
Yeah.
that they couldn't be surrounded by their community. And I guess that's also something that like just to add on to my answer, that's a positive that I learned too, is like how to actually be active in communicating.
Yeah.
Because I'm I don't know about y'all, I don't like phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm a text kind of person. Like, oh, you want to talk to me? Let's text. I'm not a phone call kind of person at all. But like because like you mentioned, or like we have been away from our peoples for so long. I've learned to just pick up the phone and talk to my loved ones because it resonates, a different kind of way. Just hearing the other person and being able to comfort or offer comfort and receive comfort vocally, orally,
Yeah.
audially,
Yeah.
Audibly. Yeah.
audibly. There you go.
No,
Oh,
that too. Yeah, that
oh, yeah.
too. Like I think a lot of it is audible and face to face and whatnot. But I also think a part of what you said of being cognizant of environments, right? Going back to like Zoom courses and all of that. We were in a seminar one day, or maybe it was just a meeting, but Angel Halafihi, the program manager for the Pacific Islander Initiative at UC Berkeley, made the point that a lot of our folks are uncomfortable with Zoom courses because it's almost like letting someone into your home.
Right.
You know, like you turn your camera on and you've then let this whole class into your home, into your space. And then you can't help, especially in those courses where they required cameras, you can't help but be the lights. You can't help but be cognizant of not only your environment, but then your environment relative to everybody else's. Like you saw what type of tables folks were sitting at. You saw what type of things that were hanging on folks' walls. You saw their environment, who had their room, who didn't have a room, who like had no peace, who had all the peace, right? And that just added another layer of complexity to sitting in these courses, because it's like not only are you there trying to absorb this material in such an informal but also abnormal way, you're doing it whilst making constant comparisons. And even that can do something to your mental health. Even that can contribute to what we saw in the rise of suicide rates. All of these things built up which is also why I mentioned how important mental health is throughout this whole process. Like all of those little microaggressions, all of those little micro happenings, right, added up for a lot of folks. And our community is not the best at talking about it. Like we have to be honest there. Our community is not good at talking about these things yet. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because last semester, was it last semester or the semester before? I've lost track of like sense of time. But I think this last semester, I was assigned to help out this middle school, and mostly focusing on the Pacific Islanders in their API club at at a middle school. And of course, we met online, and nobody turned on the cameras like at all, which was like both funny but kind of sad too. Um, but there was just this one time I went into a breakout room with this student, and they just shared with me that they don't turn on their cameras because they don't want people to see how sad they were. And I felt compelled to like, stay in our little breakout room while everyone else was in the main room. And I realized like, dang, our youth are actually getting hit pretty hard throughout this pandemic. Like they're experiencing things just as we are as adults. Maybe like not the same magnitude, but they are definitely going through all of that pain with us. I think it was really weird because I didn't know how to approach it. That was like my first time actually engaging with a middle school student who could express that. But trying to talk about it became difficult, and so we didn't really get much progress there. But yeah, I just felt like the youth during the pandemic was like a population within the Pacific Islander community that kind of got overlooked because they can't get sick, or because they can't get sick, right?
Mm, interesting.
Yeah. Well, so that leads to like my next question. What would y'all do differently if we could start this all over again, right? To the beginning of the pandemic, to the beginning of COVID, knowing what we know now, like what would y'all do differently
Mm, I don't
if
think
you would do anything differently?
to be honest, I don't think I would have done anything differently. I mean, I feel like everything played out how it did. I probably would have invested in some more stocks early before I even knew before I knew about them blowing up during 2020. But besides that, yeah, invested in Zoom.
Right.
Besides
Probably
that,
invested in Zoom, right?
everything played out how it played out, and I feel glad about how everything played out for me.
Yeah. What about you,
Mm,
Melanie?
I think, and this sounds cold. This sounds really cold. But like, I think I would have tried to adapt quicker. Um,
Mm,
and I say that because like I spent so much time. I mean, there was COVID, there was the fires, there was everything. Like everything was just kind of hitting at the same time. And I feel like if I had adapted quicker, it would have given me more time to get to that point where like I was learning to enjoy having time to like be in my space, to have
mm,
time. Like it would have given me time to have time, right? It feels as if I was able to adapt to it towards the tail end where things are opening up and things are bustling again, and everything is going back to what they're calling normal. But I definitely think I would have tried to adapt quicker to give myself the time to enjoy the time that we had being in isolation, right? Being in our homes with either our family or the friends or housemates we were living with when we were on campus. So,
yeah, I have to agree. Um, I agree with both of y'all because Oren, you make a great point about like the whole investing thing. I don't know if you were going to go on a tangent or not, but I feel like because of all of the layoffs, people getting laid off from work and stuff like that, our
Mm,
people were not as financially prepared as we thought we were. of course, all of these things were unexpected, right? But like it just goes to show like the lack of financial literacy. Yeah, the lack of financial literacy among Pacific Islander people. And then all of a sudden, the what is it, cryptocurrency? Like that's the like new hot thing right now. Everyone's trying to like buy in so they can cash out like fast money. I see everyone's like trying to what is that thing called, like forex, like trying to do forex, the foreign exchange or whatever. Like, you know, people are trying to pick up these quick money, like fast cash gigs, because their so-called jobs that they poured their energy into, like over maybe years, months and years, like those things weren't stable. So I think for myself, if we could do this over again, luckily my family has been cool. Like our jobs have been stable. We've been blessed in that way. But if I could be as financially literate as I am now, like if I had the knowledge of like how to be financially stable, then I wish I could have adjusted or adapted, like you said, Milani, quick enough so that I can share the things that I know, right? Share the things that I know that could benefit other folks. Not that I'm like saying I could be Superman or nothing, but you know,
Yeah, no,
spreading a little bit of information can go a long way.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
No,
Yeah.
but going back to the youth thing. Sorry, I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, but going back to the youth thing, that's also something I wish I would have done um, better at. Because like, you know, we're reaching out to these high schools and these community colleges, but the idea of going to college should be starting in middle schools. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like maybe pack we could have done more things to help out our youth in high schools and in middle schools. Um, yeah, that's definitely something I think about often.
yeah. That's definitely a good point because if we start doing that stuff early on, it's just going to be engraved in their mind to take it to the next level once they get there. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I might have to disagree a little bit there. And I don't say that as a definite, like, no, we shouldn't speak to grade school children about college. No, that's not it. I think college should, and I say this as someone who is enrolled at UC Berkeley,
Right.
college should be a choice.
Yeah.
College should always be positioned as one of many opportunities because college is not going to be for every student. College is
Right.
not ever going to be for every individual in our communities. And I say this to lead into something that I think we wanted to touch on today, which is like the oppression of our youth, right?
Right.
There's there are so many ideas that we as the older we're becoming the older generation, y'all. That
We sure are.
miss me with that. I'm still young. I had some kid call me auntie the other day, and I'm like, miss me. I don't know who you're talking to. I
He's
don't know
talking to
who
you,
you're talking.
Auntie. He's talking
I
to
don't
you,
know
Auntie.
who you're talking to.
to.
I'm in my early 20s. Leave me alone. It's like I don't know who
I'm
told you to call
dead.
me auntie, but yeah, we're getting to this age where it's like we're in that weird position, right? We're not the elders, right?
Right.
But
Right.
we're also not the kids anymore. And so we're in this weird middle ground where it's like the elders expect to be able to speak to us in a certain way and for us to understand, and so do the youth. And it's a weird spot to be in because I remember being that kid who you're to be seen, not heard. My parents, and I love my parents, I love my parents to death. You're to be seen, not heard. Speak when spoken to, right? And that teaches a child not to have a voice, right? When you teach a child to speak, you teach a village to listen. And I really, really believe that if we give our youth the tools to have a voice, the tools to have a perspective, the tools to create their own opportunities, or the tools to figure out how to do so, right? College is not the only choice. And because because so many of us have been raised in a capitalistic society, right? College can seem like the only choice. But we have entrepreneurs in our communities. We have equestrians. We have college graduates. We have those who will go to a trade school. We have those who will be an artist, right? And all of those knowledges are valid. Right. So no, you need to teach a child to speak. So you then teach a village to listen. It goes both ways.
Man, I love that.
Yeah,
Have you heard that before? Or did you just say that? Was that off the dome? That sounded
It was
so
off the dome.
eloquent.
She's in her
Love
feelings
it.
today, Tupo. She's in her feelings.
I love
We're
it.
just going there.
Okay, Auntie Melanie.
Don't call me Auntie. That's so disrespectful.
Yes.
You know some of the kids on campus at UC Berkeley tried to hit me with Auntie. I was like, you got me so wrong. You got me so wrong with that.
Same age.
I'm gonna change your contact to Auntie Melanie on my phone.
Do it, see what happens. Let me see it. Go ahead, let me see it. Do it, see what happens.
But yeah, no, that was a great point with the college teaching. You know, not teaching kids. You know, some kids are gonna be in college, some kids aren't. The point I was making, I'm not sure if this is what Tupo was talking about. I was talking about like basically installing like Pacific Islanders like communities like from an early age, going into middle school, going into high school, and if they go to college, then go into college. But yeah, no, that was a great point, and yeah, I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, because I have to agree. Because you know, as y'all know, if anyone's gonna be called Auntie, it'll be me.
It's you.
It's me. It's me. You know, like, I will accept that title. I'll accept that title. I'm a non-traditional student, right? You guys already know this. I'm your girl gonna be 27 this year.
Auntie Poe.
Well, shut up.
There's a ring to it. You hear that? It comes off the tongue. We're gonna make our new name tag, Oren.
Oh, it's me.
Stop. No.
Oh,
No, but that I was like, so yes, Oren, that's not the point I was trying to make. And it was definitely more towards like what you were saying about like exposing our like youth, our younger youth to what their community looks like. Because when I was in youth, when I was in middle school, the only community I knew was like my church community. And as much as I love and appreciate and I feel like is so much in debt to my church community, at the same time I felt like I was still isolated being in church. You know, I might get some flack for that too, because sometimes religion isn't for everyone. Um, but but I didn't know what the rest of the community looked like. So when I started going to City College in San Francisco, I was like, oh my God, my community is everywhere. Like, oh, there's all of these people from different walks of life. Like they experience very different things than what I've experienced. Like, damn, my mind has always been so closed. And like, I'm not even gonna lie, your girl was hella judgmental before I started going to City College. I had that, religious judgmental mentality. And it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to be slapped in the face like that after high school. But, I was, and I learned. So I think I agree with you, Oren. It would be cool to reach out to youth and not like try to force their hand at higher education, but definitely like what you said, Melanie, offer more options to them because I'm sure at a young age, their parents are already telling them like, go to school, get good grades. If you don't, you're worthless. Yikes.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be connecting with y'all and people like Naki and Carl because with me, especially with me growing up, I didn't really have a lot of Polys around me. So like my whole dad's side was my Polynesian side, but they stayed in Seattle at the time, and I moved all around the country. So it was like whatever poly I can find, like, I'm gonna connect with you. And they said
You
we
gonna
can
get
do
on
something,
you.
like we gonna be cool. So like, you know, just
Right.
growing up and just learning throughout like just different experiences and stuff, like having a community like this. And even though our community, like, or just at Cal isn't, you know, as like we're the numbers that we want to have, you know, but just still building those connections and, you know, just talking to people like Naki and Carl, and just like, you know, just building a
Yeah.
community up within where we're at in life is important. So
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
Because they're essentially a bridge, right? Like
definitely,
Hmm.
the with Pacifico by Design, they're a bridge for all of us to connect to one another. And that's like a perfect lead into this next question, which is what are some difficulties that you faced as a Pacific Islander at Berkeley that other students don't? Because I heard you mention a little bit about moving around and now you're at Berkeley and we don't have the same numbers as everyone, right?
yeah.
What are some difficulties that you recognize as a PI student at Berkeley?
Yeah, one of the main things was numbers. You know, just coming here. It's a very diverse school, in my opinion. There's a lot of different, you know, cultures here, and that make up, you know, just most of the population. But when it comes to Polys and Pacific Island, I know y'all see y'all really laughing about that. No, it's not.
Y'all leave me alone. Don't call me Auntie Melanie. We're not doing it. We're not doing that.
Hey, to me, just for where I grew up, lived in, went to school and stuff, is diverse to me because I went
Right.
to school where it's all Palongis, and I was like the only, you
Hmm.
know, like Samoan, anything, colored person. They thought I was just black. That's it. They didn't know what I was. Like coming here and seeing just different cultures, you know, it's to me it's diverse. But yeah, just numbers with the Pacific Islander community and just trying to connect. Because I remember when Angel reached out to me for the first time over email, and I was like, "Oh, look, here we go, connect to
Oh,
Polly." Went
look.
to go see her. End up talking. I ended up figuring out, like, we ended up finding out that we already met each other like a couple months ago at one of my UCLA visits. So it was just
UCLA.
great
Hmm.
connecting,
Oh,
seeing just more Pacific Islanders come to Cal. You know how we've been recruiting, trying to get people here, and I'm trying to do my part too with the football team. I was here, and there was two Polys on the team, or two Pacific Islanders on the team, and right now we got 9. So it's growing every year.
hey.
Every year. So,
Period.
you know, just recruiting and just trying to make Cal a place where Pacific Islanders will want to come to school. You know.
I
So
feel
yeah,
that.
Period.
that's
I feel
those
that.
are my experiences with that.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I totally feel that. And I think one, yeah, numbers for surely it's a problem. I believe at this point we comprise somewhere between 0.002 and 0.008% of that university. We are not at 1%. You could fit us all in a small classroom.
Right.
In a grade school
But
size classroom, you could fit every
Right.
single one of us in there with room. That's how many of us are on campus right now, and that includes undergrad and post-grad and staff. Staff, actually. That includes all
Oh,
three of
dang.
those groups of us on campus. You could
mhm.
fit us in a classroom with room. And I think one of the things that makes me so angry is that you brought up that Berkeley is a diverse university, which, yes, from some perspectives I can see, from ours I cannot, because of the ignorance, not just on the part of the student body, but on the part of the administration.
Yeah.
I had, and you know what, I can flame him here. I don't care. He'll probably never see it.
Do it. Do
Period.
it.
I'm sorry, but at this point, we're done being nice to administration, and they know it, which is why they don't talk to me. But 100%, we were in a circle introducing ourselves, and everyone at the table knew I was Pacific Islander. That went without
Mhm.
saying. We were in a meeting where that was the relevant topic. Like,
Mhm.
but like, I then introduced myself as being Samoan, right? And one of them had the nerve to open their mouth and be like, "I thought you were Pacific Islander." Y'all, when I tell you I was livid, I was livid. And that's not where the ignorance stops. I've literally had someone ask me if I was a samosa, trying to ask me
Not
if
a
I was Samoan.
samosa.
Okay.
Not
I have people all the time.
Oh my God.
All the time. Any inappropriate comments about the stays I wear in my hair, right? The flowers I wear in my hair. And it's like, I don't do this for you, right? Like this is not a performative action for you. This is something I deem beautiful because my mom did the same thing.
Period.
And it was like the level of ignorance on that campus is, I think, one of the most difficult hardships I've dealt with, because then they expect you to receive that ignorance in grace, right? And my first 2 years on campus as a freshman and a sophomore, yeah, I received it with grace, and I was like, that's funny, you know, brush it off. My second 2 years, I was like, bro, you're stupid. Like shut up. like that was stupid of you. That was stupid of you to say that. Let's recognize it and be better. Like my last 2 years on campus, I was not having it. Like to be asked if I'm Hawaiian every single day really gets on my nerves. Really gets on my nerves from a lot of the minority groups who go through that as well, who get asked something like, I remember one of my friends, right? One of my friends had a friend group, and one of the people in that friend group asked me, "Are you Hawaiian?" And it was funny because this same person told me that they have issues with being called like, "Are you Chinese?" instead of asking, "Oh, what is your heritage?" Right? If you have a question, ask it. If you have an assumption, keep it to yourself and keep it pushing. Like, that is probably the hardest thing I've dealt with on campus. I'm sorry.
You're right, because I think that's my thing too, right? Like I definitely agree with Oren that UC Berkeley is diverse, you know, on some people's spectrums, but when it comes to Pacific Islanders, I don't think I'd ever felt that like outnumbered ever in my life. You know, like I grew up here in the Bay Area, like where there's hella PIs. I mean, well, at least I live in San Bruno, so there's hella Tongans at least. So, you know, I didn't really feel very alone growing up. And then, you know, I went straight from Cap to City, you know, shout out to Cappuccino, that's my alma mater. Then I went to City. City was just the same. I had, you know, a big PI community to support me. And then I went to Berkeley, and like, I don't think I ever felt, I think I felt more alone at Berkeley because when I was in the classroom, like as the only Pacific Islander, my like views on things and my like interpretations and my experiences were invalidated. Like there was this one time we were talking about, I was in an ethnic studies class, and they were talking like, they were asking, where do you get most of your history from? Like, do you get it from textbooks? Do you get it from family? And I was trying to keep it 100, you know, like, you know, Tonga, a lot of people probably not likely for this comment, but Tonga is essentially colonized like through religion and through like the monarchy, right? You know, like you can't tell me that Tonga's not colonized, because what do we learn in the schools over there? You learn English. Like, what do you learn in the schools over there? You learn that before the first king of Tonga, you know, Tongans, or before they learned about God, that Tongans were demons, that they're evil. You know, like you can't tell me that we're not colonized. And so most of the culture or the cultural history that I learned was from textbooks, but they were written by Pacifica people in Oceania. You know, like writers like Epel Haofa and Haunani Trask and Linda Tuhivai Smith. You know, all of these great PI scholars. That is where I got a bulk of my cultural knowledge from. And when I tried to bring that up, because everyone was like, "Oh yeah, my family, my family, my family," and I'm like, my family's knowledge is colonized. I don't know what to tell you. And like man, like the teacher just sat back and let this one girl like try to tell me off, telling me that like, well, you know, most textbooks are inaccurate. It doesn't matter who wrote it. Like your family should know your history, blah blah blah. Um, yeah, it was just a really bad experience. I didn't have the patience nor the time to respond or deal with that, because it's not my job to like educate you. Like I'm only gonna see you in this one semester class, and then that's it for the rest of my life. But that's where I experienced like the most issues with UC Berkeley, is that the ignorance, right? They are ignorant. They don't like teachers don't take the time to like continuously educate themselves on the things that they're supposed to be educating us,
That
right?
part. That part.
Like this was in my ethnic studies class, y'all. Like I was really about
That
to
part.
rip the teacher a new one on like rate my professor.
Yeah.
I
Do it.
swear.
Do it.
It was just
And then
it
they'll
was
call you
horrible.
hostile in the comments. And that's the funny part
Exactly.
about it. They have called us
Exactly.
hostile so many times on campus already. I want to put it on my t-shirt. Like, fair at this
I'm a
point.
hostile I'm a hostile student, for real.
Right.
But
Like,
like that's the only way they listen. That's the only way they
exactly.
listen.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with your point, Tupo, with them needing to do their own research at times too.
Mhm.
But I feel like the only way to really end that conversation is to educate them, you know. And if they don't want to take in education and they don't want to do their own research, then you know that's their problem to deal with. But if
Mm,
I've had teachers and professors who were willing to listen and learn, like just from things that I know personally from my experiences, where I would educate them in something that I knew that they didn't know. And some of them were willing to learn, and they're willing to, you know, try to adapt and try to work with me and like basically take on a new perspective of what things are for me and might be for my people that you wouldn't know because you haven't experienced, you know. So, but yeah, I just want that was a good
yeah. I think when I say that I don't have the time to educate people, I don't mean that like I've never tried in my
point.
life.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
trust me, I've
I tried.
definitely tried.
Already done. All
I
right.
have for sure tried. I have
Right.
tried like even to our own PI peoples. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Mhm.
even have to educate our own people sometimes. Like not I mean not in a disrespectful way in any
Right.
means, like never in a disrespectful way. But you know, like it just you sometimes just come to a point where you really don't have time.
Yeah, no.
Because
Right.
like you recognize that like your time is hella precious and you're like kind of wasting it on somebody who's just gonna
Right.
go in one year and out the other because they're gonna turn off their screen, they're gonna close their laptops, they're gonna go on like living their lives, not
Mm,
even caring about the things that you shared with them.
Yes.
And that's the
Exactly.
disappointing part, especially coming from, well, like with my experience, coming from the ethnic studies department, where we're supposed to be talking about cultures and shit. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me
That
calm
part.
down. Let me calm down, y'all.
No, but
but
also on that point though, for real, like I agree with what both of you said, and I think the mix then is yes, if you feel you have the capacity and desire to educate these folks, by all means, you're within your right if you feel you can do it. But no, you are never obligated to educate them. You never have to. And if you feel, if you feel in some way you want to provide something, I've learned to point people towards articles. I'll be like, if you really would like to be educated, read this. Here, go and read this. There are scholarly papers out by people in our community that you could have Google searched yourself, but since you didn't want to, here's a link,
mm,
read it. Right? That is how I've chosen to educate people at this point. Because like Tupo said, like you go through years of doing it and then realize that your breath and your energy is your own, and you give that to the people who deserve it and the people that you love, right?
mhm.
I don't love Berkeley administration. I, I don't love Berkeley student body. Neither one of those holds love for me. And therefore they get articles in really strongly worded emails, in very appropriate emails, right? So no, I don't think we ever have the obligation to teach. We have the choice. And if we're in a giving mood that day, then by all means they get a lesson. But I agree with both of you in that sense.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not.
I think.
Oh, you go.
Oh,
You
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm not even me. I'm not afraid to say I need to be educated with some stuff. With my Polynesian, you over there talking about all them books and stuff. I might need to call you up and borrow read up
Hey.
my tongue inside.
That's
So
that. That's what's up.
No, hey, shout out though. Shout out to Professor Loyan from SF State, as well as
Yes.
Professor Kavan and Carrie Ann
Yes.
Conrad. Andrew. Okay, I'm done.
Shout out. Get all your shout outs up.
No. They're the ones who put me on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, put me on.
Yeah,
I got y'all.
There.
Yeah.
I got y'all. No, but for real though, I just one article that I want to plug real quick is an article that's written by his name is Keone Rodriguez. I don't know if you guys know him. He's he's a
Stanford.
Karamali student at Stanford. He wrote this amazing article in the Stanford Daily. I think that's what their newspaper is called. But I think the title is like, where is the PI and API? And he's
Yes.
talking about Pacific Islanders and you know, the struggles with the API label and all of that. So you know, for those watching, I will put the link in the comments later. So, but we'll go ahead and just turn over to this video real quick, right quick, before we move on to our last few questions and our checkout. Do you guys hear anything?
No. I think they'll rerun it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, we have some technical difficulties. We'll run it at the end. Um, gosh, man, I just feel like hella hyped from our conversations.
Yeah, good
Right?
combo.
Yeah.
We should start a podcast or something. We work well together.
I mean, honestly. Um, so some of our last few questions, I'm just gonna pick one real quick. I just want to ask some like lighthearted questions close to the end of this because I know that some of these loaded questions can lead to, you know, really emotional and heavy discourse, but I want to end this like on a light note because like, you know, as we've been talking, I've recognized a lot of the things that we bring up is how hard things have been, right, throughout the pandemic and how we're slowly moving towards like getting to a better place within ourselves, within our communities. And so, you know, I kind of want to keep that same energy for our conversation. We've been like, you know, talking all heavy and serious, but I want to end with some like, you know, lighthearted, kind of funny jokes or funny questions, if y'all don't mind. This one's not so funny, but if you could live anywhere right now, school is not a part of this. This is imaginary. You can think of anything you want. Where would it be? Where would it be?
I don't know. Somewhere warm. Somewhere warm
Somewhere
and
warm.
has a beach. I
Have
don't
you been
know.
to Tonga?
No, I haven't been outside the United States yet. So
Oh,
you know, that time's
gotta
coming.
go. Yes.
But yeah, somewhere where there's a city and it's warm and there's a beach. I don't know where that is, but
Sound like LA.
LA, Florida, West Coast, Samoa. We'll see. You know.
Shoot. What about you, Melanie?
It's gonna sound cheesy. You might get this, Bo.
Netherlands.
Joke one more time. Joke one more time, Orange.
Oh, I thought it was London.
This is live, Oren.
Hey.
Thank you for that.
I'm
I'm gonna get you. I just for context, Oren likes to cheese me in public with inside jokes.
Oh my
Okay.
Always.
They didn't even need to know that.
Mm-mm.
I would live inside the score of the Peer Gynt Suite. Do you know that one?
What?
Peer Gynt Suite.
You said
That
inside-
orchestral. It's an orchestral piece of music. That da 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 da.
I can't with you. I cannot with you.
But you get it though, right?
Oh my god.
You get it though.
What the
That's where I
hell?
live.
That is so.
That's where I belong.
Foolish.
You'd have to be like a music major to understand that. You'd
I
have to
know.
like play music for years to understand that. Oh my gosh.
That was just for you. That was just for you, Paul.
I can't stand you. You literally could
Ouch.
pick anywhere in the world. Anywhere
And I
in the
picked that.
world. I'm dead. Malo.
I'm still
Malo,
lost.
you can go.
Yeah, I know Orange lost. It's okay, you deserve it.
It's okay, Orange. No, it's okay. It's okay. I won't even bother explaining it.
We'll double back later. We'll get it.
So for me though, I have to agree with Orange, but because I don't know, it's hard because I love the Bay. I've been away from the Bay before, and I hated it. I lived in Colorado.
Oof.
I don't recommend.
Look,
I don't
That's what I
recommend
recommend.
at all. I don't like Colorado. Like you get all 4 seasons in one day. Didn't like it at all. Bay Area is for me. Like if I could live in the Bay forever, I would. But if for this question, I would like to live in Tonga. I would like to live in Tonga. It's kind of intimidating because I speak Tongan and I like to think I speak fluently, but then I have my parents to remind me that I don't. um, I think that's the only thing that like holds me back from like actually going there and living there. That and my husband doesn't speak Tongan either, so he'd probably be struggling. But you know, in a perfect world, we would be living in Tonga.
for sure.
You guys have to go. Have you been to Samoa, Melanie?
No, my brother has. Yeah, I have not gotten to go.
I
We
went
might
to
need
the
to plan
airport
a
once.
pack trip. A pack trip to Samoa.
Hey,
Yeah, you gonna pay for it?
I'm just saying, once we get
we'll find somebody. We'll find somebody to pay for it.
We gonna find something. We gonna find something.
I'll go. I'm down.
Oh, hey, I see. I don't know if y'all see the comments, but Maya is watching online. She said you'll learn fast. Coming from, you
Hey.
know, the master herself. She went there and learned herself.
With all
Yeah,
this-
Yeah.
shameless plug. If anyone would like to teach me Samoan, I would love to learn it. I would love to learn it.
oh,
No, for real. And so our checkout question for today, y'all, because we're coming up on time, is what is your favorite ethnic food slash dish? Or I would like to know what is your favorite PI food or dish, and who makes the best that you've ever had? Come on,
Orange
I know
tacos.
you already know this. I know.
hey, look, this is trying to
Hold
get
up.
about tacos.
Hold up.
Yeah,
No.
food. Say Mexican food.
Hey, you came for me. I just had to return it. All right, now we can answer.
Malo.
Look,
Follow.
hey, whoever's watching this, y'all gonna have to try my tacos in person. To know that shit is wrong. To know that shit is wrong.
Sponsored to you by UC Berkeley. And tacos. No, but for real. Not food made by PIs. What is your favorite PI food?
My favorite food is definitely palusami. That's my favorite. Samoan dish. My dad makes it. He makes the best one I've had, and he taught me how to make it. So, you know, maybe that'll be the next dish I'm making. Y'all.
Yeah,
like
make that
I
next
know,
time.
we still waiting on that. What about you,
Yeah.
Melanie?
No, that's my favorite as well. But I know I'm gonna get slammed for this one. But I don't like any meat in it. I like the vegan version where it's just the coconut milk, the onion, salt, pepper. Yeah, my dad makes the best palusami, so we're gonna have to see there. He taught me how to make it too. So
I'm dead.
Yeah.
I think for me,
palusami.
my favorite is like not a main dish, it's a side dish, and it's manioke. I don't know if you guys know what manioke is. It's cassava, like with the coconut milk, and
yeah,
maybe a
is it
little
like
bit
the
of
little
mayo.
balls of it?
No, it's a root, so it's like really long and it can kind of be stringy sometimes. But it's called manioke. I don't know what they call it in Samoan. But yeah, like when I was growing up, that is literally all I would eat.
That sounds hella good.
And I like it. I like it when my dad makes it. No,
Man,
but
our dads are some chefs. We need to pair them up. Get
period. We
a.
do. No, so we are at time right now. I just want to thank you guys real quick. Yes, someone said pack and cook. Shout out to UC Berkeley, Pacific Islanders at Cal. If you guys want to follow us, it's at UCB Pack on Instagram. and on Facebook, I think. And definitely hit up everyone, all our guests right here, or and Melanie. I'm sure their socials are somewhere on here. But before we close, I think our producers have that video for us.
Mm-hmm.
Today, Koviki got his COVID-19 vaccine. That's because everyone 12 and older is now eligible for a vaccine. Koviki then found a vaccine location for his sister. His sister sent an appointment link to her best friend, who reminded her business partner, who then, well, you get the idea. And it all started today with Koviki. Tomorrow, it can start with you. It's time to let our friends and family know that vaccines prevent nearly 100% of hospitalizations and deaths from COVID. We can do this.
Right on, y'all. And that's a shout out. Because all this is, we're able to do all of this because of the partnership with We Can Do This, a campaign run by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And for those watching, you can find more information on www.vaccine.gov. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is all that we have for today. See y'all soon.
Thank y'all.
Maybe.
Love y'all.
Thank you guys.